How's it going, everybody? Nick Daniels here. This is going to be a bit of a different video here. So this is your first look into a computer, looking at your motherboard, that kind of stuff, kind of what things do. It's not going to be really taking apart the computer per se, but I'll be showing you folks some different things, telling you a little bit about it, and without any further ado, let's get right into the video. Here we go.
Yeah, look at that. It's Dell. Alright, here we go. So we're looking at the computer here. Old computer, piece of junk actually. So this is the model number. You're more than welcome to look that up. If you don't know what the hell you're doing, we're going to look at some information there, a little service tag info. Now, most of your computers are going to have a spot like this where you can just kind of slide something open and the case will usually just pop open for you. It's quite convenient. So this computer here is just a junk computer, so we're not going to go through the safety procedures on this one just yet. We're going to go through that in just a moment. We're going to show you just what it looks like, and then I'm going to go over a little bit more in detail of what's actually going on inside. You're looking right now, you're like, holy crap, I don't get this, I don't understand. And you know what? That's the point. You're supposed to just look and, you know, just have no fucking idea what you're doing here. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to talk you through this here in just a second. But before we do that, let's show you what you're going to see in the video. So there's the Dell. Here's a laptop. I just kind of took a couple things out of it, just showing you. You know, you can take the hard drive out, yada yada. There's a little netbook there, notebook, whatever you call them. Fuck knows. Toolkit, you get that online. No big deal. Good time, by the way. There's a regular hard drive. You'll find that like in a desktop. It's like 3.5 inches. And the smaller one there, 2.5. And that's on a laptop. A little bit of small RAM, big RAM. That's the speed of your computer. RAM stands for random access memory. ESD strap. Oh, whoa, we jumped somewhere else. Never mind. Yeah, that's got two PS2 ports on it. So what those will do, it's the older version of your of connecting your keyboard and mouse. And if I am correct, the purple would be your keyboard and the green is your mouse. I'm going to pause it right here. You can see where I'm holding these safety glasses real quick. There's that blue strap laying there. We're going to get to that in a second, but that's your ESD strap, which is super, super important because you can actually touch a computer and fry it by actually the shock of your hand touching it. So you can touch something, you give it a little zap, and and then next you know, it's up in flames. Bad times. So if you wear that, I forget what it stands for exactly, but I think it's electrostatic discharge. So yeah, it's called grounding yourself, which we'll show you here in just a moment, but let's resume this puppy. So yeah, you put your safety glasses on. So here's the ESC strap. Make sure that's on tight or decent, and you want to connect it to a metal piece on the computer. So here we go, and 3, 2, 1. Oh, bam, it's in. Yep, make sure it's secure. Look, there you go. You get a good amount of length out of that. First thing you want to do, hold the power button. I know it sounds redundant, but you want to hold that for about 10 seconds. It'll drain any power that might be on the motherboard. And then we're going to do the same as what we did a minute ago. We're going to pop that button. We're going to open it right up here. Just fucking throw that shit. And here we go. So we're actually going to talk about it here a little bit in depth. So a lot going on here. A lot of cords. So I'm going to pause it here frequently, and hopefully I can remember when I'm editing to do this. So these two white, long white strips, and there's a black one there, and it's got a little blue piece. That's where you're going to put your expansion cards. So those could be anything from, like, you know, again, another graphics card, wireless card, you know, you get the idea, right? You can expand, you can like a ton of USB ports on there. So that's where they're actually going to plug into. And those two are different ports. So the white ones here and that black one, those are completely different. We're not going to be talking about like PCIe, you know, extended and express. You know, we're not going into speeds. We're not going into any of that. But I just want to make sure you have the basic fundamentals of just kind of, if you were ever to put an expansion card into a computer, that's where you would go. Let's keep her going here. Right there, we're going to pause. This is where your hard drive would go. Again, I already took it out, but it was actually in another computer, and it wouldn't fit in that one properly with the braces on. I just kind of left her. Fuck it. But this long blue cord, that's a SATA. So that's serial ATA. Usually about 15 pins on those, or sometimes it's the one here on the left, actually, that's beside it. And might not be the best picture here, but either way, you get the idea. That actually plugs straight into the hard drive. That'll connect it to the computer, and then the ones here on the left will actually, if I'm right, will actually give it the juice because those are connected straight to the power supply. So that being said, we're going to continue on here. Right there, no, it's not might not be the best angle I paused it on, but I know what it is. That's where you actually hit the power button, and that's what's connecting it. And usually that will come with like 2 USB ports right on the front with it. So that's kind of convenient if you just need an extra couple ports. Every computer is going to come with a ton of USB ports, by the way, if you didn't realize that by now. Now, this is where you're going to put like your optical drive, so your DVD drive, CD drive, whatever you want to write, put there, Blu-ray, floppy disk. You can find a lot of the older ones, but this is where they're all going to connect into. Some computers will have multiple, so you'll actually have like multiple DVD drives. I don't find there's much of a point to that, but you know, that can happen. So there, I kind of poke it. Right there, quick little pause. That's the power supply right there. Not the best shot in the world. Right there is your main, this white piece here. This is your main power supply. So that's like your P1 connector. That's the main power supply to the motherboard, giving it all its juice. And this little guy right here with the fins, that's actually a heat sink. It's what it's called. Same thing to the left. What that's actually going to do is it's going to cool down the chipset that it's above. The big one on the left is it's actually for your main component of the computer, which is your CPU, aka the central processing unit. That'll cool it down. So what it's going to do is the heat's actually going to come up through the heat sink, and then there's usually 2 fans in a computer. One that's going to in the front that's going to intake cold air, and the one in the back's going to shoot it out, and the cold air will come directly above the heat sink and cool it down. It's just the way it works. It's all aluminum too. And there's actually, further in this video, we'll show you a little bit of the thermal paste that's in between those, which is kind of cool. Where my finger is here, it's really hard to see, but those 2 black lines there, that's actually where RAM goes. So that's, again, I think we talked about there earlier, actually speeds up your computer. Take note, though, your computer is limited to a certain amount of RAM, so you can't necessarily just put in as much as you want and hope for the best. Your computer can only support a certain amount, and there are certain speeds of RAM, so if you mix and match those speeds, your computer is going to give you errors. Which is a big problem, and a lot of people try to build their own PC might not know that. So anyway, there I'm just jabbing it so you see. Here's a little bit more of the heatsink here, so you guys get a good view of that. So like I said, here in a couple seconds, we're going to be taking this puppy apart, looking at the PCI slots again, like in your expansion slots. Little connector right there. So here we're going to fast forward a little bit here. We're taking apart the fan, the heatsink here. So we're going to just rip this thing right off. Yeah, usually they come right out. So you can see there's a fan right there where my finger is beside it. So that was blowing the cold air or the hot air there. I'm not really sure which one that is over top. So what you see here, a little bit of white there on something and like a little latch. So that's called a socket. It's what's going to hold in the CPU. Now, a lot of these, depending on what computer you have, like you either have like an Intel or an AMD processor, which are your 2 like main brands. They'll have their own sockets and their own pins and everything, and it gets kind of crazy. I need to know all that for an exam, so I don't really want to get into that right now. But looking at it right there, you can tell it just kind of latches right in, which is I think the PGA, which is the pin grade array, and then you have like LGA, which is like land grid array, and they get crazy. So all you need to know is there's a little latch there. You just push down on it. As so, here we go, and voila, look at that. Oh, I'm trying to open it. Oh, there it goes. And so be careful. Do not get that thermal paste on your finger. It's not very good. If you do, wash your hands immediately. So that thermal paste, let's pause it right there. What the thermal paste is actually going to do is the thermal paste blocks the gaps, okay, in between the heat sink. So what the thing I originally had, the big thing I took off, because it's got its own little bit of thermal paste on the bottom because they're in direct contact. So for one, it stops, what's the word I'm looking for here? I got nothing. But anyway, it makes sure that they've just got a solid base that they can connect to. So you always want like a thin layer of thermal paste on there. You don't want very much, but again, that's what it's going to do. It's going to ensure that they have like a solid connection. And it's also going to block out any hot air packets that are going to in between those two. A lot of people will just tell you that the thermal paste is just going to cool it down. Technically, that's not wrong. So there you go. A little bit more, you know. And like I said, do not get that on your hands, whatever you do. Here's the bottom right there. There you go. You can kind of see all the little pins and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on. So here's RAM in the sticks here on the other motherboard that I have, just a spare one here. So you just pop those two latches and it usually comes right out. Like I said, there's tons of speed of RAM, but we're not going to get into that in this video. Now, here's the other one here quickly. Just pop these two little latches that are on the sides, and it's the same of putting it in. Here's another heatsink, but this is a lot smaller and a lot harder to get out, I find. You have to get 2 little prongs under these little hoops. But there's the bottom of it there, and you can see, again, here's a small little chipset. Pause right there on top of it, so you can't really get much out of that. But basically, correct me if I'm wrong, that is what's called the North Bridge chipset. So that will actually have direct contact with the CPU, their graphics cards, and it's maintaining the highest priority items that take the most power, need to be the most efficient. So it's the quicker one. So that's why it's got its own heat sink, because it's going to generate more heat. It's going to make more heat. And there is a smaller heat sink, but you won't always have a heat sink for it. Sometimes it'll just literally be the chipset on like this little black piece there, well, white technically in this photo, on the motherboard. And that's the South Bridge, which will control the slower things. So that'll be like your keyboard and your mouse, for example. Pretty cool shit. Pretty sure I just looked at it there, but we'll look back at that for a second. That's pretty much it there, folks. I think that's going to sum it up for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, though. Just a quick video showing you a little bit about a computer in the inside and out. We've hit about 13 minutes. If I knew how to do some animations and shit, which I probably could do, I could totally do, what I might do is I might go download some little animations and shit and like kind of put them on like a slide and talk about them. If you folks would like more in-depth on things, I could totally do that. I would love that. I think it'd be really fun. This is what I want to do on my channel, incorporate kind of like its own playlist and just be having computer related content. So again, thank you so much for watching. My GoPro decided to shut off there. Hopefully that's not hopefully you guys couldn't hear that, but you probably did. And until next time, see you later. Oh, and if Fritz is watching, you stink. All right. Cheers. Oh, and shout out to Billy, if he's watching. If he's not, fuck him. There you go. Cheers.